She's no widow of my son, she's a liar!
He sewed the truth into my coat.
They dragged Octavia Ashford, 35 years old and 7 months heavy with child, down the front steps of the grandest house in Elkhorn and left her in the snow like a sack of spoiled grain. But Octavia was no fallen woman. She was a lawful wife, and in the deep winter of 1884, outside that frozen Colorado town, she carried the only living heir to the Ashford name beneath her coat. Bartholomew Ashford, the cattle baron who owned half the valley, stood in his lit doorway and called her a liar before the whole street. He swore his son had never married her. He swore the child was nothing. And the town believed him, because Bartholomew Ashford owned their loans, their land, and their fear. But what Bartholomew did not know was that his dead son had left something behind, folded small, sewn into the lining of a traveling coat, and one quiet rancher named Calhoun Reed would be the man who finally stopped to read it. This is her story, a tale of a woman the world called shameful, and a single sheet of paper that proved she had been a wife all along. Before we go on, if stories of courage, dignity, and the quiet strength of the human heart move you, take a moment to subscribe, and tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching from. I read every single one. Now let us return to that bitter January morning outside Elkhorn, where Octavia's story was only just beginning. The cold found her first. It came up through the thin soles of her boots and into her bones, and the wind off the high prairie carried the laughter of the men who had carried her out. Octavia did not weep. She had learned, in the long months since Lucas died, that weeping changed nothing. She rose, one hand braced against the iron gate, the other curved low across the swell of her belly, and she stood. She had married Lucas Ashford in the spring, in a small church 2 valleys over, with a circuit preacher's hand on the Bible and his signature on the page. They had told no one. Lucas had wanted to bring her home properly, in summer, when his father's temper had cooled. But summer never came for Lucas. The river took him in June, swollen with snow melt, and the man who could have spoken for her was gone. So when she had come to the Ashford door, round with his child and asking only for his name, old Bartholomew had looked at her the way a man looks at a stain on his good coat. A scheming woman, he called her. A liar after his money. He had not asked to see her proof. He had not wanted to. The snow began again, soft and patient, and Octavia turned her back on the warm windows and began to walk. Calhoun Reed found her on the Grey Willow Road at dusk, a dark shape against the white, moving too slow. He was 40, broad through the shoulders, with a square jaw and a brown mustache gone frost-tipped, and he ran cattle alone on the spread his own family had left him. He was not a man who spoke much. But he was a man who stopped. "Ma'am," he said, reining in the bay horse, "there's nothing out this road but my place and the dark. You'll not last the night." Octavia lifted her chin. Her lips were gray with cold, but her eyes held steady. "I'll not be any man's burden," she said. "And I'll not be any man's liar." Something in how she said it made Calhoun look twice. He had heard the talk in town, the Ashford woman, the shameful business at the big house. He had not believed it the way the others did. He climbed down, took off his own heavy coat, and laid it over her shoulders without a word about owing or shame. "It's a cold night," he said simply. "Come in out of it. The choice to leave come morning is yours. The choice is yours." No one had said those words to her since Lucas. Grey Willow was a plain house, warm and worn, with a kettle that sang and a fire she was allowed to sit near without being told what it would cost her. Calhoun asked nothing of her story. So slowly she told it. The spring church. The preacher with the ink-stained fingers. Lucas, laughing, promising summer. "They never asked for the paper," she said. "They decided what I was before I opened my mouth." Calhoun set down his cup. "What paper?" Octavia went still. For weeks she had guarded the thing so carefully she had near forgotten she could use it. From the lining of her traveling coat, the coat Lucas had given her, the coat she had stitched the secret into with her own hands the night he died, she drew out a folded square of paper, soft as cloth from being hidden so long. A marriage record. The date. The county. The circuit preacher's name and his looping signature. And below it, in Lucas's own hand, "She is my wife before God and law, and what is mine is hers and our child's." Calhoun read it twice. Then he looked at her, and for the first time in a long winter, someone looked at Octavia Ashford as though she were exactly who she had always said she was. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "this isn't a thing you beg with. This is a thing you walk through their front door with." But Bartholomew Ashford had not built an empire by losing. When word reached him that the Reed rancher was sheltering the woman, and that she carried a paper, he moved the way old wolves move. He sent his lawyer to the county seat to question the record. He let it be known, in the saloon and the mercantile, that any man who took the liar's side would find his credit gone and his lease unsigned by spring. Then he rode out to Grey Willow himself. He did not get down from his horse. He looked at Octavia on the porch, at Calhoun standing easy beside her, and he smiled the thin smile of a man holding every card. "Whatever scrap you've forged," he said, "I have 6 lawyers and 40 years in this valley. That child will carry no name of mine. You'll be run out before the thaw, and this fool with you." He turned his horse. "Burn the paper, woman. It'll go easier." Octavia did not burn it. She folded it back into her coat, against her heart, where it had ridden through the snow and the cold and the closed doors, and she waited for the one thing Bartholomew could not buy. The circuit preacher's name was Obadiah Lott, and he was not dead, and he was not for sale. It took 3 weeks and a long ride, but Calhoun found him in a missionary church 40 miles south, and the preacher remembered. He remembered the quiet spring wedding, the young man so in love he'd nearly forgotten the ring, the bride who'd signed her name in a clear, steady hand. And he had his book. Every circuit preacher kept a book, and in it, in ink that no Ashford lawyer could blot out, was the record: Lucas Ashford and Octavia Merrick, joined in lawful marriage, witnessed and sealed. When the county judge laid the preacher's book beside Octavia's folded letter and saw the 2 records match, same date, same county, same hands, there was nothing left for 6 lawyers to argue. The marriage was lawful. The child was the true-born heir of Lucas Ashford. And the woman Bartholomew had thrown into the snow was, by every law of God in Colorado, the mother of the only grandchild he would ever have. The judge looked at Bartholomew over his spectacles. "You owe this woman an apology, sir. The law has already given her the rest." The news ran through Elkhorn faster than any blizzard. The men who had carried her down the steps could not meet her eye in the street. The mercantile owner who had turned her away found her credit suddenly worth honoring. And Bartholomew Ashford, who had called her liar before the whole town, learned what it was to have the whole town watch him proven wrong. He came to Grey Willow a second time. He got down from his horse now. He was an old man, and the empire that had frightened a valley looked smaller with his hat in his hands. "The child," he said, and his voice was not the voice from the lit doorway. "It is Lucas's." "It is," Octavia said. He had come, she understood, to bargain, to buy back the grandchild he had thrown away. A house in town. A monthly sum. Quiet terms, to keep his name clean. Octavia stood on the porch of the plain warm house that had taken her in when his grand one cast her out, and she did not raise her voice. "You did not ask to see my proof," she said. "You decided what I was. My child will know its father's name because the law says so, not because you've grown lonely. You may visit when you learn to knock. You will not buy your way back in." For once in 40 years, Bartholomew Ashford had no card to play. He put on his hat, and he rode home alone. The child came in early spring, when the snow at last pulled back from the Grey Willow fields and the first green showed along the creek. A daughter. Octavia named her Lucy, for the father she would know only through her mother's steady telling. The baby had her grandfather's stubborn chin and her mother's clear, level eyes, and when Calhoun Reed held her for the first time, careful as a man holding something he'd waited his whole life to deserve, he did not say a word about owing. He had never asked Octavia for anything. That was why, when summer came and he asked her quietly if she would stay, not as a burden, not as a charity, but as his wife if she would have him. She said yes with her chin high and her eyes dry. They married in the same plain church where no one had ever once asked her to prove she was worthy of it. Bartholomew learned, in time, to knock. He came on Sundays, an old man softened by a small girl who did not know to be afraid of him, and Octavia let him in, because dignity, she had decided, was not the same as cruelty, and a child should have all the family willing to earn her. She kept the folded letter to the end of her days. Not as a weapon. As a reminder. For the world will tell a woman what she is long before it asks her, and sometimes the only proof she needs is the quiet certainty that she was telling the truth all along.